All right, we'll go ahead and get started. May 8th, 2017, May 8th, 2017 Fiscal Court Budget Workshop. We gave you an agenda. We're trying to keep this in order over the meeting dates that we've got. But today we're going to try to get the changes since April 21st, receipts and payroll overview. Emily, do you want to update us on the changes?
Yeah. Gosh, this is gonna be terrible, I'm sorry.
Those are the changes from what we had from what we just got.
Yes,
Is that
yeah.
correct?
They are,
Okay, that's,
in the binder clip, there's only got one little orange box on it.
yeah, can you put that microphone closer? I can't hear you.
Yeah, I'm sorry. These changes, the first one is, the judge and I are splitting the part-time employee since she works in my office and his office. It was in your original payroll packet, but it wasn't on the appropriation listing. So I added it in as it should have been originally. In the payroll packet, it had retirement on there as well, and she's not subject to retirement. So it's a $4,000 net subtraction from general reserves. DLG recommended that, I think even though, Bob, you don't participate in the training fringe program, I'm supposed to budget as if you might try to. And if you were to complete it, I needed to budget that. So they asked me to add $1,100 to that. And then, so there's another $300 worth of fringe. So there's $1,400 out of the original 104 general fund reserves, taken down to 100 with the treasurer's office part-time employee added in. And then another $1,400, which takes the new general fund reserves down to 99,228. And this next part is a little bit complicated, and I didn't have time to address it all. But DLG also recommended that my payroll program, my payroll spreadsheet, this big thick one that has everybody in it, was set to round to the nearest hundred, up or down. So if your salary was $38,225, it would round it to $38,200. DLG and I talked, and I didn't realize that I could round that up, and so they suggested that we round that up. So when I changed all the rounding in that spreadsheet, it made a $12,800 difference in the overall payroll and that's just rounding everybody up. If your salary was $38,102, it rounded you to $38,200. So whereas in this year, in the coming month, I'm going to be making a lot of appropriation transfers to cover any little overages like that, I won't be doing that next year. It's already fully funded. I didn't really realize that we could do that, and upon their recommendation, I was happy to hear that. So that was upon their recommendation. So we took that from what you were originally given, that the $12,800 payroll difference plus $2,500 that DLG said we had to fund juvenile housing. We had to put something in that line item since it's a statutory requirement. We put $2,500 in there, so it's an overall reduction from desktop management that is in the GIS department. It's a net change of negative $15,300 to them. The other things that are just below that are changes in the building inspection. The Benton, Calvert, and Hardin, and then the county contributions are listed as below. You also have a separate sheet here that breaks those down and how we got those percentages.
Are the cities aware of that?
They are not yet.
No.
They will be, I'm assuming, following today's meeting.
Yeah, we discussed in fiscal court meeting that there's several things that we are looking at. The interlocal agreement, the way they came up with these permit fees, the dollars that you're looking at, I think that needs to be shared with the cities, because that was just Emily and Casey coming up with that process. And then the language in the actual interlocal agreement needs to be addressed. I think the county attorney's office is doing that. So we're going to present it all at one time. Go ahead, I didn't mean to.
The only other difference is building inspections. We found out that we did need to carry a policy that we had on Larry Spears, since he is technically an employee, unlike Randy. There for a while, we were told we should have that policy. Keiko is now telling us that we don't need it, so we've removed that. However, the board will need insurance coverage, since it's a multi-affiliated board. It's got counties and cities that will need its own insurance, and Peel and Holland and Keiko have told us that should run between $1,200 and $1,500.
You did say Randy, you kind of squeaky on the first part. You said Randy? Is that what you said?
Yes, Randy Duke is not an
Okay, I just
employee,
couldn't
yeah.
understand. Oh, yes, okay, I got you.
Sorry,
But the board-
that's gonna
Randy
happen.
doesn't, but the board does, okay.
Yeah, Randy is contract labor, Kat is not.
Okay.
I agree that's confusing and it's inconsistent, but after auditors told us back and forth different things, this is where we are. So that made a net increase in the building inspection reserves of $1,500. Y'all have any question about any of those changes?
Let's move on to receipts.
Receipts are gonna be your,
We're looking at the new information that was given,
yes,
or the
yes,
old one?
new.
The new, okay. All my, you have to bear with me, all my
Yeah.
questions are on the.
In
on my
hindsight, I
old
told
instead
Des,
of new.
we should have stamped draft 2 on these, but that was in hindsight, sorry. I'll try to do that next time,
You write it on.
yeah. You all have the new one. It's got the yellow on the far right-hand side. Do you want to just look through those and you all pose any questions that you have regarding the receipts?
I,
Look like this, John. Can't find it.
it's in the,
In this one, yes. Okay.
Hey, my first question is the very first thing on real property, and just looking down in the yellow there, anything that was a big number, a big change, what in real property tax, why is that $50,500 less than
I
you expecting a bad
believe-
year, or?
No, let me pull up. No, I believe that's what we originally budgeted this year, and then as it's come in, we've amended to it.
Okay, well, didn't it show in 15, 16, and 16 and 17 that it was more than that?
This year, real property tax, we originally budgeted $1,550,000. So it's the same amount. I have just amended in as we have gotten more throughout the year. So yes, consistently, it's gonna be probably a little over $1,600,000. I've just,
Well, it's actually at $1,621,000 right now, with
Mm-hmm.
2 more months to go. And in 15, 16, it was $1,627,000,
Mm-hmm.
which is probably roughly what's gonna be this year ends
Mm-hmm.
up. So that's $70,000 less budgeted. I just wondered why, with the track record in the 2 previous years, why have we budgeted less?
I tend to budget all receipts conservatively to a point like that. That way, as we're throughout the year, I'll add to it, I'll amend them in. That way, I'm not overestimating our receipts. That's probably the worst thing I could do, is overestimate receipts, and then we've got expenses set higher than we can actually provide. It's not hidden. It can only be spent after it's amended in.
Gotcha.
And where that tactic comes in handy is throughout the year when things come up that we need to fund, like the rescue squad's sonar thing. All of those type of things are gonna come up through the year. And if we have something to amend in, helps us be able to satisfy those needs that we can't predict right now.
Yeah, I just looked at 15, 16, 16, 17, and they were almost identical, and
Yes.
$70,000
Yes.
difference, so.
Yes.
If you were.
And if you all would like me to increase that line item.
No, I'm not saying that. I just wondered. I'm just looking at the differences and the changes there, and I understand that. Okay. Is the same thing applied to the sheriff's fee pooling down in 4549, where there's a $57,500
Yes,
difference?
this year was a guess because it was the first full fiscal year that
Fee
we had
pooling,
with him.
okay.
And we added from the original, it was originally $207,500 was his original budget. And we added an extra 225 to that this year. So I've kind of landed in the middle on that.
Okay, I know on the alcohol money, I understand that also, and it's in the first, you're kind of guessing anyway, because it's the first full year, but
Yeah.
we certainly don't want to get caught like we did last time with overestimation of the alcohol money and kind of
Right.
put us in a $330,000 bind because of that.
Right. So as of right now, we've received $1,280,000 from the sheriff. He has 2 more months to report. I expect that it will be another at least $150,000 that we'll receive from him. So, $1,375,000 may be a little high. Maybe I need to back that down a little bit.
Oh, I'm not saying that, I
But-
just look at the.
But I think he'll, based off of our 1 year that we are into now, I feel like that number should be okay.
Yeah, I mean, I see that perfectly clear as when you're talking about something that you're just kind of guessing anyway, and you want to be on the right side of that guess, and I just didn't, in the property tax is something that's, there's a pattern there. That's where I didn't understand that one, but I fully understand that one right there. Same thing on GIS fees.
Clerk fees too, that's,
Yeah,
I think we always set it about 195 is where you usually set it. isn't it?
Yeah, I have to mimic the clerk's budget on that also, and that's what he had budgeted. GIS fees,
Uh-huh.
some of the difference in that is that 911 used to pay $12,000 in fees to GIS. Well, let's just plain swap the money, and we don't. That was when GIS had a separate account. They no longer have that account, so it's just, so that's a big portion of it. And it just looks like our GIS fees were down this year from other years. So
GIS is no longer going to pay,
911 will no longer pay GIS.
GIS,
It's
okay.
just a service.
okay, just from one department to another? Cooperating and communicating, okay?
Same thing on page 2 with surplus equipment and insurance proceeds. I've started amending those in after we receive it. The insurance proceeds, that's like if we have, like we're gonna have a large claim at the road department. I don't really want to budget for that until after I know how much it is and pull it in to offset the expense that we've paid.
The only other questions that I had on page 2 through 5, and not just any particular line item, but on the page 2 of 4731, you've got miscellaneous, and miscellaneous $153,000. On the next page, you've got a miscellaneous of $34,000. On the next page, you got a miscellaneous of $40,000. And on the next page, there's a miscellaneous of $26,000, which all totals about $250,000 of miscellaneous. Is that, I don't really understand.
That's where-
What's $250,000 worth of miscellaneous, I guess my
Right.
question.
When we switch to the format that we are in now, where each department is budgeting for we're budgeting their own health insurance amounts for that. There was on my behalf, there was a breakdown in communication. I didn't communicate the way we would need to transition that to Karen when she was paying the insurance bills. So, right, the previous fiscal year, we paid, general fund paid the general fund employees portion, road fund paid the road fund employees portion. This year, I started transferring those amounts. When I transfer their gross payroll, their retirement match, I transfer all that into the payroll fund directly at the time of payroll now. So we had given payroll fund too much money, and they had to reimburse the other funds for those 2 months of the July and August payments that were for June and July, before she and I got on the right page about how we need to pay those bills moving forward. So that's where all of that amount comes from. That not all of it, but that's the 75 to 90% of the portion of those is cleaning up that error, not necessarily an error, but fixing the way that we did it, because we were putting that money into payroll fund and she paid it out of general fund. So payroll fund had to pay general fund, road fund, jail fund, all of those back.
But it was always characterized as miscellaneous?
No,
in the
it only
past?
happened the one time. It was the 2 payments, the one time in the beginning of this fiscal year. So it's not something that we've done regularly. It was just the one time. And our health insurance bill is about $160,000 a month. So that times 2 is going to get us to that.
You know, I've never had problems with miscellaneous because I understand what you just explained, but when you got a total of $250,000
Yes.
miscellaneous,
Yes.
I think we need to be more frugal with our, identification and so forth.
Right.
And the explanation. I know the little amounts I'm not concerned with, because
Right.
I know that
I
there's
agree.
things that are too numerous to answer, but if it's one big thing and we've got it lumped in miscellaneous and it's $250,000.
Yeah, and I
That's
had
not
to
very
amend
good
that
tracking.
in, so it was on the amendment like that. I had
Mm-hmm.
to provide the backup documentation to DLG for them to support it as well, because that is much too large of an amount to be a miscellaneous. It was just a one-time thing, and that's where DLG and I felt like that, given this one-time experience, that it
Yeah,
should
that's
should
the other
go.
thing I was thinking, reviewing the budget, that they would catch
Yes, they question
$250,000
things like that.
in that. Okay. That's good. Only other thing that I have, and I'm through with my questions on that sheet, is the Alcohol Beverage Control Fund. We're anticipating our guess now after getting caught $330,000 short is to decrease that $204,000. And is that is the explanation there, isn't it?
Yes, we decreased regulatory fees.
Okay, decrease.
They were, I did have it almost at 300,000, but, one of the new laws that passed required us to give a credit of their annual license fee back to the entity that's paying the tax. We didn't have to do that originally. The statute stated cities had to give a refund back. They changed that legislation to say cities and counties have to give that back. So I did reduce the regulatory fee an additional $30,000 because of that, because it will have to come off of, we would still collect the license fee, but that license fee would then directly come out of what they pay in regulatory fees.
Yeah, and the law is always going to change, or I would be my guess there. If we get used to this, they're going to change something again next year, but certainly don't want to be caught on the wrong side of that number. But
No, so we drastically cut it, so.
we should have
and
a
we-
better educated guess
As-
of what that number is going to be.
Yes, as that comes in
And-
this year, we will amend it in as additional monies present themselves.
Good deal.
On the Veterans Van Fund, why is there nothing budgeted for 17, 18?
And as time approaches, we may need to change that. I believe it
Where are
is
you going? What page?
page 6.
6 or 7?
I believe it was the judge's intention that we transfer those funds to another veterans organization to handle those funds for us. Doesn't mean that we can't continue to support it, but that way it's not necessarily handled through us.
How is that gonna work? I guess the only thing one of the things we've done is at times, whether we maybe don't want to anymore, but at times we've sent out letters to other counties requesting that if it goes to someone else, that I felt like we would have a little more leverage with someone to speak
Right.
on behalf of that fund. And I think it's certainly a very good, something that we do here, but I think is very good anyway for.
Yeah, those letters, I just sent those letters out. The biggest thing is that you've got the VA that funds a band program. The Marsh County Veteran Support Group, it was a 3-member board, now it's a 5-member board where each representative from the veterans organization sits at the board. To me, instead of having somebody come up in fiscal court and make a request for bonuses or things of that nature that, we can't do, I think that type of stuff needs to be handled at the organization level. The monies still appropriated for those purposes, but it's through a different organization. That make any sense?
It won't be a receipt, but I mean, we'll still be providing our portion. Is that what we would do? Is it basically a grant or whatever, and then are we still gonna try to encourage the other counties? There's been times when we've had to really encourage the other counties to do that, and anyway, I just hate to see us
Do
go
you remember
back.
which counties participated? Not all
Generally,
of them did.
yeah, generally, I think we got McCracken, Lyon, Hickman, Fulton.
We actually had to fill out the same application process through McCracken.
Graves.
Instead of a letter, we had to fill out an actual application.
Request for funds.
It just, it's doing the same thing, supporting those, that type of resource, but making sure that we got our documentation.
On the last page, page 7 of your receipts section, I did this section at the bottom to kind of show how occupational tax administrators fund, how occupational tax feeds our county's needs. This year, the general fund is $376,000 higher than this current year, and that's due directly to where we're allocating things in this budget. And this budget's not approved yet, so that's not, this just gives you an idea of where it comes from. I've got budgeted $6,790,000 to come out of Occupational Tax Administrator Fund to feed our other funds. Without occupational tax, we would not be able to function even remotely like we do. It's definitely our bread and butter.
Well, it's also, it could be our Achilles heel.
For the last many years, it's been our bread and butter.
Absolutely,
Many, many, many years.
yes. If y'all don't have any more questions about that, we can move on to payroll. The legal sized papers, this kind of gives you an overview of if there were any explanation needed for a greater, either a greater amount or a decrease in a line item.
The long paper here.
Yeah. Mhm. That is an overview to all of these pages that follow.
Okay. That's when you're going to now, or are you going to appropriations?
I think, what would you prefer, Judge? Would you like to go through payroll with these detailed page by page, or?
Yeah, let's do that.
That's what our agenda says, payroll overview. That's where we're going.
Yes, the pages that look like this that will follow directly behind those.
And the only changes in the one we had before we got in here and the one we just got a while ago Or is there any major changes in this besides what you said?
They're, just the rounding are the only
Right.
major
Okay.
changes in here,
Okay,
to the best
okay.
of my knowledge. I really tried very hard to keep that changes log.
Okay.
However, it gets complicated when it seems very simple to just change one cell, but when you change one thing.
$12,000 worth of
You have to.
round
you
up,
ca-
I
If you
understand.
can't change an expense, you have to change a receipt, so somewhere
right.
I've tried very hard, but I am not perfect. There may be some exclusions inadvertently.
Again, my questions were just marked on my old instead of the new, so I just didn't know about.
Okay. Yeah, the old one, I believe, was 300 and. I think it was that $12,800 difference. Your first page is judges payroll. That's statutory.
Hey, is that why the first three lines are blacked out?
Yes, because,
Because statutory?
yes,
Okay, the same
because
thing with county attorney and the
Yes.
same thing? Okay, I just didn't know that.
elected
Okay.
officials, we
Got-
do, yeah.
got you,
Their raises
got you.
come at a
That-
different time
that-
and are not subject to our
Right. I
privilege,
thought that
pleasure.
was the answer, but I
It's-
didn't, I'm just making sure.
It is
Okay.
what it is. We can't change it.
Good deal.
Deputy judge's salary. No changes there, just the 2.1%. And I don't know if I've reflected that for the record. These have a 2.1% increase embedded into them, and that is equivalent to what elected officials received from the state. This is the judge executive secretary line and fiscal court clerk. This is the judge's training fringe. Judge executive, other employees. This is the deputy judge's HR line. And then it just says employee, where we now have Madison Holland as our intern. She works 3 days a week filing for us mostly, but she also is going to be doing a lot of the scanning for Laserfish as we try to bring in the old court records into a digital system. This year, this fiscal year, this was all in, the extra employee was all in the judge's payroll. This year, we split it 50-50. That was part of the change that didn't get in there on the appropriation side, that this way it's split between my office and his office, since we both utilize her more than anyone else.
She's not going to be working twice as much, and you're just going to split that.
No, she's not working twice a month. She's still 3
Yeah,
days a
I
week
mean,
is
that's
what
it
we've
looked
got
like,
budgeted
But that's what you
for.
talked about in the first, that first sheet.
Right,
Okay.
right.
Got you, good.
County attorney.
Hey, speaking of Jeff off the subject, because he, in the hospital, I talked to him earlier, and he didn't sound very good.
No, he's
just
got on
at
bed
home?
rest for 2 days. They almost didn't let him come
And
home.
that stuff can kill you,
Mm-hmm.
obviously.
Assistant county attorney. Then these are the county paid county attorney staff.
Intern, is that normally in there?
Yes,
Okay. And he hires an intern, that's just with his, or do we pay the intern?
that's us paying the intern.
We pay an intern for his office, okay?
Then the next page is what he plans to reimburse.
So you're paid, that's page 11? Or are you farther than that?
Yes, yes.
Yes, okay.
This is what we pay on his behalf that he reimburses us for.
Oh, is that fringe reimbursement, is that for those particular employees there, or?
It's not necessarily, because it doesn't fully pay for all of those employees, but it does, that
There's
is
a tune
more
of
than he has.
43,000 it does.
Yes, as you'll notice on the cover page, he's, the difference in this fiscal year and what we got budgeted for next fiscal year, he's actually $67,000 less.
Okay, it was 400 and what last year that we subsidized the county? 460,000? 400, yeah, about 460,000, wasn't it? I know he told me that he would, making improvements and trying to work on that. And $57,000 is, he did what he said he would do. That's good.
Yes.
What do we, well, are we, with all the reimbursement of fringes, what are we subsidizing the county attorney's office in this proposed budget?
I'm not sure I can easily answer that very quickly, but
I
we
don't
have
to have
on
it
the,
today, but just
on
if
the
you can.
expense side, in the general fund, he has budgeted $397,800. But that doesn't, that's not offset by any of that reimbursement. So that's the total expense, and I'm not sure.
I don't have to have it now. We got 5
Yeah.
more workshops, but.
I don't mind to look at that for you, but
No, I
I don't
mean,
think
just-
I can just,
Yeah, no, I don't,
come
I'm
to
not
an-
talking about now, that's
Okay.
fine, I have no problem with that, just in the next, well, not even tomorrow, but sometime in this process.
Okay.
What we,
Yes,
what
the
we
black and red.
subsidize them, yeah, and
Sure.
what we're doing this year and what we did last year. I know that
okay,
he told me that it was down significantly.
it is.
Heading in the right direction, that's good, that's what we asked him to do, that's good.
Okay. Clerk, this is just his fringe, he pays payroll. He is budgeting $195,000 in offset of this, so Tim, like myself, always budgets conservatively, so, and he usually is a wash, so unless he has some significant payroll changes somewhere, I would expect that this year, but it's not black and white like that on paper until we get to the end of the year, so. He is at $239,100 for total fringe to his office. The sheriff's salary,
Well, Tim, every year, like I say, I think he's $400 to the good after the worst last year. I
yeah,
mean,
yes, I think
usually
in
don't have to
fiscal year
worry about
16, yes.
That, I mean, what we subsidize him is always comes back at the end.
Mm-hmm.
And it'd be nice if they were all like that.
Sheriff Byers, his is not necessarily blacked out over here, but it's the same, it's what we're told statutorily.
And the same question on that budget, this the same as the county attorneys, what did we subsidize them last year, and what is the figure for the new
Okay.
budget?
I'll get that, I've made a note, and I'll get that at some point through this process for you all. This is 19 officers, ones he currently employs. This is his clerical staff. I'm going to go back to the sheriff's deputies. To the right, it is not on your printout. but to your right up here on the screens, this is how their pay is broken down. This column here is their base pay. I'm sorry, that's their total. The green column is their base. If they are a detective, they get an allotment for clothing. If they have a communication allowance, which all but just very few do, then there is a rank if they are a ranked employee. And they'll have to forgive me because I don't know what their ranks are, but different ranks warrant different pay increases. And then that totals them up, set aside there. To give you an hourly rate. Again, that's his clerical staff. This is court security. That does say new hire because, trying to think if he has replaced him yet. He had two that were going to leave that we were going to replace with the same money. I don't know that I have a name to tie to that yet, but it is that base dollar of $9.69 an hour.
So that new hire is actually not a brand-new hire, it's a new hire to replace a employee that's leaving?
Right.
Okay, I didn't
Yeah,
understand that.
it's
That
not
was one of the
it's
questions
not
I
an
had.
additional employee, it's just replacing one that left.
Just a replacement.
This is the sheriff's overtime. Also, at some point during this process, I'm gonna need to get with the sheriff and recalculate his deputy hire maximum because we are increasing their pay by 2.1%. I'm gonna need to build that into his deputy hire maximum moving forward after this is approved. But this fits in with the deputy hire maximum that we had $162,000 worth of overtime into it. And that reflects that amount with the 2.1% added.
Not numbered.
This is the deputy's clef pay. That is also set by, is that set by legislation? It's set by another body.
It's already set.
Okay.
Say that again, I couldn't hear you.
The clef pay is set
Oh,
by
yeah, okay, yeah.
DOCJT.
Yeah.
Sheriff training fringe. Coroner elected official salary. His deputy coroners. Commissioner's salaries. I did, in the appropriation column, you will notice that the HRA and the health insurance is a little bit more on you all. That is due to me predicting that Bob may need to come on to the county insurance where he's not currently. And I'd rather predict that and it be there if he does. If he doesn't, it won't change.
You're just assuming that Bob and not Bob and his wife will come. That assumption.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Bob comes, it'll just be Bob.
Right. I figured, I assumed that Pat's was covered through her retirement. This causes me question about myself because there's only the two of you on here. I wonder if I changed that or if I changed the link.
Yeah, that page, well, I'm looking at the old one instead of the new one, but is Bob in there in the new one, in the training fringe? What page is the new? The old one's not numbered and the new one is. What page are we on in the new one?
On which one? I'm sorry, Doc.
in the commissioners, the training fringe.
On this page. Should be 23 in this.
23, but it's not labeled 23.
That's what I was looking for. Okay,
Okay,
I see this is gonna be an issue. I'll have to make that change again.
To add Bob there, as you said you did on the first page, or the first.
Right. I thought I had done that,
Okay, that's what I said,
but
he's not on there.
it is not on there, so
Okay.
I'll have to get that in there.
You said that was a recommendation of DLG.
Yes, it was.
That was, they didn't recommend it.
This
last
is the
12,
first,
you never
yeah,
participated, have you, Bob?
this was the first year, and I talked to Tom Dobson, he's our rep, 2 or 3 times during this process, because I did question that. That I had you all down as tier 4, as I know you and Johnny would be, but they wanted me to raise it to 90, they wanted it to be 9,200.
I just wondered why they just got it this year instead of.
I
And to change, just,
Yeah, I really, honestly, I
no
think it's DLG, Commissioner Donahue requires a few more levels of oversight, and that she is referring within their staff. So, Tom Dobson, our DLG rep, I think he had to get figures from Scott Sharp, who is over this training program, that he will direct them as to what numbers should be in our budget. So I think that's one of the things that DLG is kind of taking out of our hands, so,
They get a new baby every year to,
yeah.
sure, as players change. Got you.
I saved that change there. Maybe. Okay, Casey Tubbs. She's our PVA county employee.
That's the only thing we subsidize the PVA's office, is that's the entire amount?
Indirectly, yes, we pay for her on behalf of his office, but we do have a statutory obligation of $75,700 that we have to pay to his office. This is my salary. This is the fiscal court only section.
Let me, Emily, on that, I noticed, and I think I know the answer, but just to clarify that, current salary, this appears for you to be making $3,000 and $3,200 roughly, if you're rounding, than you did last year. But that's because of later on in here, there's some alcohol money. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes. Myself and Assistant Treasurer Brenda Edwards both charge a piece of our salary to ABC for collections. And that's an allowable expense. This is Finance Officer Karen Freeman's salary. Brenda Edwards, Assistant Treasurer's salary.
Same thing applies there, correct? Okay.
Yep. This is that part-time employee that I had mentioned. That I feel like is unbelievable help to us. Just filing alone saves us a lot of time and something that I don't feel like you all should pay us to do. We're paid to do other things. And if we can find somebody to file on our behalf, that would be great. I think that's money well spent. This is my training fringe. That is, unlike yours, it is not it is an option, but it is not there's not a statute behind it.
I mean, that's all on the up-the-up. I know there's a program for us, but
Yes, and our program only requires 20 hours. However, I track it to 40 hours to turn into you all for approval, because if I'm being paid like you all are for 40 hours, it's unfair that I should only have to get 20. So that's not, I put forth 40 hours worth of training and turn that into you all for your approval.
Is that the same in adjoining county? I mean,
There are several different counties that do do it this way.
are all of them compensated for?
Not all of
Not
them,
all
no.
of them? Because I can ask them that question now.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's something that varies throughout the state.
I mean, obviously, I think it's a good program. Of training fringe is a very valuable tool. It encourages you to do so and keep up and continue education. I think it's a good program. Lots of connections and
When it was,
pays
when it was,
dividends, I think.
yeah, when it was originally discussed, it was a way to incentivize me to receive that training, but it's also up to me whether I meet it or not. This is where we are reimbursed this from the refuse for our duties that we perform for them. And that will have we'll have to get another agreement in place to continue that arrangement.
But that, isn't that after the state auditor's recommendation, isn't that part of your salary? I thought that vote put that money back in your salary.
Yes, we just have it, I have it separated like this so my salary doesn't in years forward become so confusing. If that makes sense to you all. Plus, because it's got several tiers to it, where this is the part from the Tourist Commission for the transient tax collection. There's no change in that. This judge, this is a 0. I think we should recommend to Dennis to just leave it at 0. The increase.
He just completed on the day, so we can look at it.
Yeah.
Say that again?
Dennis is going to send the agreements to the Tourist Commission and the clerk and the refuse. Refuse had voted they're presenting a 3% increase to their employees. Since
I
we're
know,
no
I
longer
was
employees with that, we discussed this morning.
He's got
That-
one with both. 0
Okay.
and 1%.
Okay. Dennis is going to send to the boards for their approval, those interlocal agreements, for us to recomplete those. There was only 1% proposed in the refuse districts, in an increase of 1% for us. In here, this is looking like it's a 0%, which if it is 1%, it would be offset by the increase in the revenue from that, because it's a wash.
It was 1% last year.
Huh.
It was 1% last year. They proposed to 3% this year.
Right, and in their budget that I presented to them, I didn't change that from 1% to 3%, so I would not want to go beyond that 1%
So
from their budget.
So our contract and our interdepartmental agreement with the refuse board, the way it stands now, that is gonna,
That agreement, the current agreement will expire June 30th,
right, so
2017.
the next agreement will reflect a 1% increase in those salaries?
There are going to be presented two agreements. One would reflect 1%, one would reflect 0%, and leave that up to the refuse board.
Okay, I was at the board meeting and they recommended 3%, but then I know there was
Well-
some discussion afterwards that
Right.
that was a contract with the county.
Right, and technically, since we are no longer refuse district employees, that's not necessarily mandatory that be handed down to us. And in the budget that I gave to them, I did not have 3% on our portion. It only had 1%. So even though they said 3%, it only had 1% on it, and I wouldn't want to go beyond what they had already approved. This is for the work that Brenda and I do for the clerk's office for segregation of duties and franchise tax billing. This is the law librarian salary. That's statutory.
What does that entail?
I'm not sure I can answer that.
Does Tiffany know what it entails?
I'm assuming she has to keep the records or the law books available.
There's a law
For the-
library at the judiciary building.
I'm assuming it's, yeah, it's statutorily, she's the one obligated, and we have to pay between $600 and $1,200 a year.
I know it's always in there.
Yeah, it's a statutory thing. This is our election deputy. Economic Development Director salary. You can see the breakdown below where it's reimbursed at 50% from the Port Authority.
Has that been approved?
I'm sorry,
Has it been approved by the
the Port
Port
Authority. I'm not sure, has it, not yet. It's on the agenda for tomorrow night's meeting. This is the secretary in the Economic Development Department. She is going to go down to a part-time level. So there's a pretty drastic cut there.
Is that voluntary or otherwise?
I believe it is. It's voluntary.
That is voluntary, okay. She wants to do less or wants to work less or, okay.
This is our courthouse janitorial staff and a part-time relief person for when they take vacation and/or sick time. They can call in a sub so that there's still two performing that duty majority of the time. There's no summer help budgeted. And if it is, it's requested by the department, such as the intern that Judge and I have asked to share. This is our maintenance and/or special projects crew. This is Trista at the sheriff's office is paid $2.92 an hour for cleaning the sheriff's office location.
She's getting paid what?
Part of her salary is $2.92 an hour. That is a cleaning portion.
She cleaned my house for that, $2.
No,
Have to work that deal out.
I know.
Sound like a good deal. Dave, you want to clean your house for that? Okay.
This is janitorial and custodial at the Judicial Center. When we revamped, when we redid the breakdown between Roy Jones and putting him into special projects, putting all of that together, I had to reallocate how much would be AOC's responsibility. So it went from being 50-50 on Roy to approximately 8% of each one of the special projects crew's salary, because they all are working down there. It's not necessarily one part, but this kept the amount equivalent, and it would be great if we had a work log or something like that from Tex Crew so that we could actually see how much he's where. Because I don't want to overcharge ALC, but I don't also want to short ourselves if it's more or less. So I think that's something that we kind of have in mind as to.
So this is not in addition to their salaries. This is just.
Right.
This is just.
It's taking a portion of it.
When we look back a couple of pages and we saw their salaries,
That-
these figures are not added to those.
Yes, they are. Like
Oh.
mine, the total amount was, say,
What page was that on again then? I had that question also.
back to,
Back on
should
page
be,
39.
yes.
So this is not their accurate salaries here on page 39. You need to add to those salaries and totals the figures on 41.
Nope, I don't think so. I think that's an error in there.
If they are, they're all getting pretty good raises compared to the rest of our employees, if that is correct, because it shows their current salary and salary with raise, and then you add those figures to that, and that's a pretty good, pretty hefty raise, like a whole lot more than our other employees are getting.
Let me double check that.
$4,000 raise.
Right.
No, I don't need to do that right now. I will look at that. That's why we do this, because I'm not perfect. There's going to be, these spreadsheets are complicated, and this is why we do this. I'll make that change later. I don't want to pull up their employee profile and payroll and verify that due to their personal information being in there.
So what is answering my question?
I believe the answer to your question is going to be that page 39,
Is
what's listed
accurate.
on page 39 is their total salary.
Right.
And what's listed on page
That-
41 should be reduced from that on 39.
Right.
I believe that is,
That's what I was hoping the answer would be, but I didn't.
I believe that's it.
And that just includes Roy Jones, Ricky Inman, Brenda, Vicky, Gary, Matt, Shane, and Ricky Creason, and Randy Henson. Who's Bobby Martin?
He's a step higher.
He's what?
He's a step higher. He's a part of the Marshall County Exceptional Center. He comes in and cleans, I believe, for an hour a day, 2 days a week.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's cool. Figuring that now, or we're moving?
I am, if that's all right.
We got 6 more of them. I wouldn't think that'd be necessary right now.
Okay. No, Doc, that is, it is right in the spreadsheets. It's split.
What now?
It is accurate in those spreadsheets. It's,
39 is correct, and they're getting everybody getting a $4,000 raise?
no, it's, what I did was I split it.
So, page, page 39 is accurate.
39 and 41 are accurate. It's the combination. They currently make $19.13 an hour. 2.1% puts them at an extra 40 cents an hour at 1953. 1953 times 2,080 hours a year is $40,626. And so if you combine the 3,250 and the,
Let's just do Gary Teckenbrock's, for example, to be less confusing, or, well, no, his is different. Let's do
his
Matt.
is probably a little more
Let's do,
confusing.
let's do Matt Thompson's too. But you're saying that page 39, where it says current salary and salary with raise, on example, Matt goes from 40 to 41 with the 2.1.
Mm-hmm.
But he is actually receiving that $41,613 in addition to, over here on the 41, in addition to that money?
Yes, it is a combination of the two. Matt's not a good one to look at either
I
because he
I
has that
understand
other
that too
part
when I did
for,
that. Let's go to Shane then.
yeah,
Is that-
Shane,
Okay. But I mean,
37.
that answers that question. So,
I'm not
so you thought that was their salary. Now it's the combined salaries.
This
39 and
desktop.
41 combined.
Oh, do I gotta go back? Okay.
Obviously, that's confusing. If it was confusing to me, then I had the question, but
It would probably be clearer if I,
if it was all
did it
in
more
one-
like mine was, where you could see the total
That-
and then just the piece that was for that section. Would that make it better?
Well, I don't know, it'd make it better. That's why I asked when we were in the treasurer's office, that's why I asked if those were all under one.
Here-
That would make it clear for me to see.
Okay.
But the answer was there. It was,
Right.
you know, 3
I'll
different
try- I'll
things.
try to
So
make that-
if we're gonna do, let's at least be consistent if we're gonna, that,
All right.
I thought that about the other also, so
Okay. I'll make those
instead of having to
changes.
go through and
This is, I
add
don't
'em
know
all
if
up
you
or
all
find
can
'em.
see.
to identify them.
It's the 1913 times 2,080, which is 40 hours a week, 52 weeks a year, times 92%. That's the portion that's here. The other is the AOC portion. And
But that's
here's their-
always been like that. That was that way last year.
Right.
Okay,
It may have looked a little bit different in the beginning last year because of the transition throughout the year, because I had to go through a pretty complicated process to
and
get
it
them.
might have been exactly
them
this
to
way
post.
last year, but I just didn't.
I agree. I should be consistent with the way it's displayed.
Well, I would think with every employee it would be that, so you can, instead of having to find them and add them up and
Mm-hmm.
so forth, but like I say,
You should see a total on the beginning and then
Right,
break it down.
right.
That's fine.
and then break it down in
I
the
can-
same page, that would be less confusing for me.
I can do that. Because on paper, when I give you all paper, you won't see that line that shows you it was 92% or 8%.
Yeah, 'cause like I say, I was assuming that this was something, it was a raise that,
Right.
different than the 2.1 that our other employees were receiving.
Okay. GIS and county paid salaries. This is, I'm trying to see if that has that increase in there for Casey. This does allow for that new IT employee at 40,000. And it is continuing to budget Casey counts at 60% GIS, 40% building inspection.
So this is only a portion of his salary here? Okay. I probably don't have it here, but I probably got that question when we get to the other portion of his salary.
This reflects a $2 an hour increase in his salary.
I certainly have no problem with that. He's a very, very, very good employee. He's made that department go. That transition when the state mandated residential inspection, he's very good at his job. But the new IT employee, that was budgeted last year
That's correct.
and the year before, I think,
That's correct.
and we still don't have that employee.
That's correct.
And we did a 8,000, when Judge Cheryl Miller was here, did a $8,000 study of IT and audit of that department, and it was identified that we had one of the best IT people in the state of Kentucky, just his plate was too full. And that we needed to get him help.
I recall that, yeah.
Right.
Um,
And there's $40,000. Has that person been identified, or we plan on doing that?
Yeah. Yeah, you got a competitive market out there too. We spoke to.
Well, I
to
understand
companies
that.
here and trying to get an IT. Murray State's doing actually they got an active survey right now. They see the need for an IT. I mean, it's really challenging.
Well, I know it is. It's competitive for that, and that's peanuts compared to what some of those guys making. Andy Lepistow could probably go someplace else, and I think he's aware of that and do better than that too. I know it's tough, but we certainly need to make an effort. That was my recollection. It's been in there for 3 years, and need to try to do something to do as the audit. Yeah.
Next slide is emergency management. Then you have no one from the ambulance service, since we don't have any of their payroll anymore.
Where are you now? Did you skip some?
I'm sorry, what?
Okay, I just, maybe I was talking,
Oh, I thought I said,
emergency management.
yes.
That's what's budgeted in, and that current salary was with current salary with amendment that we budgeted that in the middle of the year to bump that up.
Yes,
Okay, that was with amendments, the current salary.
this
Salary
is just
was
a
right.
2.1% raise on top of this current salary.
Right, but it didn't in the middle of the year, didn't we raise that up to salary because,
Yes, because we were anticipating that law change, and then it
Right.
didn't change.
and then it didn't change?
No. A judge put a hold on it.
Okay. I mean, I have no problem with that whatsoever. I just want to know if that was if That was the amended.
Animal shelter. This is their current two full-time employees' salaries with the 2.1. This is a reduction in what we are currently paid out on weekend, holiday, and relief staff and overtime.
That's a reduction?
Currently, they're over budget in that line item.
And we've reduced it even farther?
No, we've
We've got,
retained what it should have been kept at.
we also, not to get outside the budget, but we've got something that we want to present as far as maybe working with the Humane Society to take the adoptables to help free up some of the work that's needed with the part-time. So we've got something else that we're going to present in addition to this budget meeting. So
Is that other thing in the budget here?
the actual Humane Society.
Oh, well, what, no, I know they're not, but whatever we're doing here to justify cutting back on what they're already, I understand they were over budget for some time, and this is proposed to cut them even more so, which would make them more over, but you're saying that there's something else in the works to give them a little relief?
No, I think we've identified that there's some challenges. I think there's some challenges with the work with the adoptables. We think that we can move the adoptables that will free up the labor force that's already there, that's budgeted. There's going to be more discussion on this.
We started with 77,100 in that line item this year, as reflected in this amount budgeted.
What is the difference again? What'd you say the difference was?
This fiscal year, we started with a $77,100 budget, which is that amount in current salary. Right here. That's just not what they have spent. They've spent more than that. Do you have any other questions about that? Okay. This is Lyndall Groves with the sanitation, number 2 and number 1. And Lindsay Hicks, their bookkeeper, with number 2 and number 1. Both of those are fully reimbursed.
While we're on the reimbursement and so forth, and that's certainly a godsend. Lyndall does a good job, and I think that's good strategy of the combined sanitation 1 and sanitation 2. But sanitation 2 owes this county roughly what, $1 million, $900,000. Is there any provisions for them returning that to the county, or a pay schedule? I know there is a pay schedule for the $576,000, that was put in place in 2011 maybe, and we haven't gotten any of that, but is there are they that far along or recouped where that they can start returning some of that to the taxpayers?
Intent is to do that. Unfortunately, starting out, we didn't know how bad it was. We didn't know
Well,
what that dollar amount was going to be.
I understand, you are correct, I understand that.
First, yes.
I understand that, but at some point, we need to, because those are
Answer,
two
yes.
separate entities, and I fully understand the mess and the need to, as we all know, the EPA hands the car keys to you or dangles them, and you either take them or they shut Draftonville down, and we don't want that. So I understand the need to do so, but sometime in the future, those rates need to be looked at as they were suggested in 2011 when Florence and Hutchinson left and still paying $5 1,000, and so they can return those $900,000. I guess it's, do you have a figure of what that is, Emily? At exact what sanitation district?
I know what it is.
It's close to a
From-
million.
Yes,
Close to a million.
from Judge Neal's.
Yeah.
The prior, when we were, I'm not aware of an
2008.
agreement with the
Yeah, that, we
prior.
looked at that, it's like $576,000, and there is a pay schedule in there.
Okay.
The only problem is $0. It was $1,000 a month, $12,000 a year, which would take 500 years to pay for, on that, but at least they were making an effort to pay the taxpayers back of Marshall County from that special taxing district or sanitation district, but it is, as the judge said, it is a problem, and it was in bad shape, and a new board and Lindell and crew have done a magnificent job of correcting a very serious problem.
Next page is senior citizens, which is, this is the one for the South Marshall senior citizens,
Where are you?
page 48.
Okay.
That's been zeroed out in that it is, we have put those amounts into the contributions in 01-5320-5070. I left them down at the bottom so that we could see what they were.
Let's move to what again? What number did you say again?
01-5320,
I can,
01-5320,
015,
50-320,
okay?
5070.
I thought she was was in the senior citizens, I guess I don't know where all those dollars exactly come from, but as the activity director, not just didn't think it was a contribution, she's not a employee.
I looked at all of the ways that we were subsidizing, either directly or indirectly, the ones that I could quantify anyway, into that number, just to give us a total of what those numbers would look like. I think it's then up to you all to decide how and what we distribute where. If we finish with this section soon enough, I don't care to, no.
I think the grant application, I know your question, Bob. I mean, she's a county employee that serves the,
Not only South Marshall, but I thought Benton as well.
we tried to work that out, and that didn't work out.
Okay, well, that's the last I knew about it. My understanding was she was gonna work on activities for the whole county.
That was the intent. That didn't happen.
That was the other senior, the structured senior citizens expectations also.
This, page 48, this falls in the grant application process. I think we got it scheduled for 31st.
I've got to at least recess it. I didn't know how far this would go, looking at the thing. It started at 2 o'clock, but I got to go get a 7-year-old at Benton Elementary at 1:45.
I gotta be at Christian Fellowship, 325, to pick up a grandson too.
We got it for overview for tomorrow morning.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine right now. I can go, I just got to run here, and he doesn't have to be there for 3:25. It won't take me 2 minutes to run down there. We can keep on trucking.
This is nuisance ordinance. This is funding him at Scott Brown at 4 hours a week, and
Again, there's Scott Brown, and on another page, there's Scott Brown again, which is,
it'll be the combination of the two.
okay. So, and again, is the same question with the special projects employees. Is this in addition to what
Salary.
he is going to receive a $4,319,000 raise?
No,
No, okay.
We had.
no, he's at $20.34 an hour
Okay.
times 4 hours a week times 52 weeks is what this is. So on his ABC line item, it would be $20.34 an hour times 36 hours a week times 52 weeks a year.
So it's the same
I
as
just
he's
need
getting
to-
last year, just plus the 2.1%?
Yes.
Okay,
Breaking that out. So
Yeah.
we got ABC.
right. And, I mean, that's good, but I still think it would be good,
I'll-
every employee right there where you can see it
I'll
instead
agree.
of
I
having to
agree. I'll make that change.
go back. That would be good. Thank you.
This is Judge Faust with Park Director.
Question there is in retirement. I was under the impression when we hired the judge that we have to pay in, what, is that the little, we were saving, we were paying the previous director $55,000 base salary, and his was raised to 48 maybe, which was saving $7,000, plus we did not have to pay his health insurance because he was
Right.
a retired judge,
Yes.
which saved the county significant amount of dollars, and we didn't think we'd have to pay into the retirement. Is this where that little quirk that the retirement system says we've got to pay in, though he's never going to use it?
Yep.
Kind of,
Yep,
right, yeah, I knew that
Yeah.
came back, and so
yep,
we get no benefit out of that, but yet we got to pay it.
yep.
Yeah,
That's
that's-
exactly right.
State government at work, there you go.
This is your park employees. I do have a couple of people flagged for their breakdowns because of Dennis's pay scale change as far as when he hires new people and then how they advance in their.
Is that something that he decides or we decide?
Was that approved, I think? I think he presented a pay scale that it took them maybe 3 years to reach
Catch up.
base pay.
I mean, I don't have any problem with it, I just
And
asked
that's
that
what
question.
this is. It's nothing in
that's
above
fair.
and beyond 2.1%. It's just
Right.
following that
They will-
pay scale that he
They,
set
all of a
forth.
sudden, after 3 years, they will be up to par with the rest of them?
I'm not positive it's 3 years, but he does have a process in place as to how long that takes.
Well, obviously, if there's got to be, that's what I say, does he approve that or do we approve that? And if we don't know the answer to that, then,
I think
We still dealing with the same dollars, budgeted dollars.
from this year,
obviously, the answer to that would be the fiscal court.
I mean, I can ask him when he's here. Yeah, I would. So he'll be able to tell us, is that tomorrow he's scheduled?
Mm,
Oh,
No, I think
yeah,
he
that's
is.
right. Who's tomorrow? The park's at 3 tomorrow, so he will be in
yeah,
here at 3.
he's going to be better to answer that question than I
Okay,
will.
That's good.
This is the park's clerical staff. This is our department superintendent. Your road foremans. This is taking into account the ones retiring and what we will have to pay out in his time that we will owe him.
And Jeff is definitely retiring.
Yes.
I know that was his intention. What about the new foreman? Has that plan been changed? I understood that we were looking at people out there that were interested in that, and possibly that had been switched gears. Is that correct?
That's in a meeting with Wendy, that's probably going to happen.
Okay, so in the budget process, will we know before the end of these workshops, answer that question?
Yeah.
I mean, I'll talk to them and well, not either one of them, but one of them spouse that informed me of that maybe that's a possibility that, I mean, they're doing an excellent job out there. That's one department that has got less employees and doing more work, and very pleased at what the road department does. And the community realizes that also.
This is clerical staff for the road department.
What about her raise? Is that looks like that's more than the 2.1%? Is that part of the plan that?
It is. She was hired in August of last year.
Mm-hmm.
So come August 1st, she would be bumped up to, looks like $13.50 an hour. It'd be $1.50 an hour increase.
So is that consistent with the Parks Department and that structure? Approved by who? Or
Well, your clerical employee at the park was hired underneath the park board, and they set that pay scale. That it was before this body became the park board. So, no, that clerical employee started off higher than this.
don't we need to kind of look at that and make sure they're halfway consistent? Our policy's 3 years and 1 year, and somebody gets I mean, that's,
Right.
I know that's why we're doing this, but
Yeah, yes.
that's, okay. Because I guarantee you that other employees are going to see that, and
Well, the problem with it, you can't go back and.
oh, I know,
change
I
them
understand,
based-
I understand that, yeah.
Stuck with
You
it
are,
in some
you are
cases.
correct, it is what it is, the cards are dealt. But going forward, I think we maybe need to correct that so that we're all on the same page, and it's not 3 years in one department and 1 year in another. And like I say, our employees receiving, it's better this year, the 2.1, but when they were getting a .533 raise and somebody gets a $4,000 raise, that doesn't swallow very easy for the other employees.
Next page is your road department, labor. This does have, retirement payouts for the 3 employees that we know 2 of them, their dates
We do know two of their dates?
I believe so, yes.
What, do you know those dates?
Two of them, it would be July 31st would be their retirement date.
Which two?
I believe it is John.
Well, you can tell me tomorrow if you don't know.
And Wendy would probably be better to answer that question
Okay,
also.
well, we'll identify that tomorrow.
This also includes 750 hours of overtime. That's kind of an average over the past few years. This is their part-time. This is what they use for following the mowers at 6 months, at 3 people at 40 hours a week, at $12 an hour.
When's Wendy gonna be in here?
Wendy
Oh,
is not
the 30th.
until, yeah, May
Oh,
30th.
30th, yeah, I see that now. But those employees have been identified and they're already following the mowers, is that correct? Is that a Wendy question to get the names of those employees? You've got the names of the employees, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
Can you get me those names of those employees, if you will, tomorrow? Or the next day? And we're watching that, because I know, wasn't it last year, year before, we got in the pickle where
Yes,
they're pretty strict on
yes,
the.
part-time, full-time.
And
with the-
they continue to change the rules that you got to play by, which it makes it impossible for us to
Yep.
keep up and
Your jailer, that's statutory. This is your deputies at the jail. The ones that are highlighted in blue, or there's a little bit of shading on your copy. Those are employees that have moved up in rank due to the personnel changes at the jail. Roger's had several of his older employees retire, and he's been very patient about who he wants to replace those with. He's evaluated them for a good while, so I think he is decided on some of these. These may not be who it is and how much it is not as important to me. I just need to make sure that I'm getting the pay amount in there. So if the personnel is inaccurate, it is the accurate pay amount overall.
And it appears also that he's hiring an additional employee.
He-
It's approved in this budget, or not
he-
approved, but it's.
Yeah, he does keep that. He's had that in there for probably 2 or 3 fiscal years now, because he's at a high capacity. He's been operating
Right.
really high, which is also what's kept us from having to fund him. So he does keep that in there in the event that DOC tells him he has to have another deputy jailer.
And I didn't, that's way back there on the sheriff's thing. What about, has he got any requests for hires, or is that proposed in the budget, any new employees and that?
There is no proposal that I know of.
Okay. I knew Roger had said something about he was going to ask in the budget. Of course, he'll be here to speak for himself there and justify that.
This is jail's office staff. There's a tiny bit of overtime built into that for the training that they have to attend.
I've got to go get, that's my wife reminded me, I've got to go get a 7-year-old. Are you all going to proceed? I can ask those questions later if you're just going to go through this thing. We've got a couple other things marked, but,
It don't matter. We've got, tomorrow morning, we've got payroll overview continued, so.
okay. Okay. Okay, good deal. I appreciate that.
Page 61 is where we're
We have to adjourn or anything, or
Would you like a
continue?
flag
We have to adjourn or continue, or by motion, or,
We can if you want.
I mean, I didn't know. I just
Entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Tomorrow morning.
Any opposed? Motion carries.